This meeting is being recorded.
Well, good morning, good morning, good morning. And we are so excited to share with you guys about the upcoming mediation cruise. And a lot of people are saying, well, what is mediation? We're going to get into that. But before that, I want to introduce my bride, Debbie. Debbie, I'll let you go ahead and introduce yourself.
My name is Debbie, and Randy and I have been married for 18 years, and we are in our calling of doing marriage restoration retreats and intensives, and we love actually what we do. So we are excited to invite you guys onto our cruise and to be able to put the tools into your pockets the same way that somebody put them into our pockets.
Yeah. And one thing that we all have in common, and that is that we want to improve our marriage. You know, your marriage might be good, it can be better. Your marriage might be great, it can still get greater. Or you may be in a place where you're struggling in your marriage. This is a great place to be because we're going to be sharing with you some powerful tools and a very unique resource that has proven to help people bring satisfaction and improvement to their relationship. And so, with that, we're going to cover a lot of things today. We're going to cover a little bit about the cruise itself. The cruise itself is designed for couples who have actually gone through mediation, and so that's who'll be on the ship, and that's the reason that the day before we're doing a 1 day mediation for couples that haven't gone through mediation, and that way they will have done it, and then they can get on the ship the next day. And so we're gonna cover what mediation is, so that you know that, and then we'll cover a little bit about the cruise, and then we'll answer any questions that you may have. So to start with, I want to share a little story of a guy that I just heard about, and he received a check, and now let's face it, we're all out of practice when it comes to cashing checks, right? I mean, because everything's electronic now. And he had this check and he wanted to cash it. And so he walked into a bank, he went up to the first available teller, and he slid the check underneath the teller's window and said, I would like to cash this check. The teller looked at it, said, that'd be great. I'd be happy to, sir, but I need you to endorse the back of the check. And she slid it back to him. And he said, yeah, here's the thing. I don't know you. I know you don't know me, but I don't want to sign it until I get my cash, because I want to know that I'm going to get my cash. And she said, sir, that's not how it works. You need to endorse the check first, and then I'm able to give you your cash. And he goes, no, no, I'm not comfortable with that. I want you to give me the cash first, and then I'll sign it. She said, sir, I'm sorry, I can't do that. And it started to escalate. And pretty soon the manager came over and he's explaining the whole thing to the manager. And the manager says, sir, it doesn't work that way. You're going to have to sign the check in order to get your cash. Well, it escalates to the point where the manager asked security to have him leave the bank. So he didn't get his cash. And so he walks down the street to the next bank, and he walks up to the first available teller and slides the check underneath the window and says, I'd like to cash this check. Well, the same scenario plays out. He doesn't want to sign it until he gets the money, and they won't give him the money until he signs it. And it escalates also and gets to the point where he gets kicked out of that bank. Well, he goes down the street to a third bank and he walks up to the first available teller, happens to be a very seasoned veteran teller. He slides the check under and says, I'd like to cash this. The same scenario plays out, and it starts to escalate. And she walks out around the teller window, whacks him on the top of the head with a ruler that she had, and she said, just sign the check. He signs the check, slides it under the window. She goes back around, gives him the cash. Now he's got the cash in his hand. He walks back to the original bank, up to the original teller, and waves the cash like, look at this, I got my money. And she looked at him and said, sir, how did you do that? And he said, well, that bank explained it to me differently than you did. that's kind of how we are with marriage. It's a metaphor for how we approach conflict in marriage. So sometimes we don't see the obvious flaws in our own behavior. So sometimes we assume the problem has to be with our spouse. And if you're like me, there's probably been times in your life where you've cried out to God and asked God to change your spouse. And you're convinced that if God will change your spouse, then everything's going to be okay. And in anything you need to change, well, then you'll change when your spouse changes. But it obviously doesn't work that way. And so and things can quickly get out of hand and you can get disappointed in a relationship. But the reality is that we have to own our own behavior. We can't just expect that our spouse is the problem and that they're going to be able to change the relationship. And so that's really what mediation is about. Mediation is about us understanding how marriage works. It's kind of like this. Sometime back, I spoke in a church, and in preparation for my message, I did a little bit of research, and I found that the most expensive production car you can buy. This is a car off the line, ordered. You don't order it special; it comes off the line. But the most expensive production car you can buy is a $7 million Pagani. Now, I don't have one, but if I did, imagine if I used the owner's manual from a $16,000 Nissan Versa, which happens to be the least expensive production car you can buy. And so they're both production cars, but imagine if I used the owner's manual from the Nissan Versa to operate this high performance luxury sports car. It's obviously not going to work. I'm not going to get enjoyment out of it, and I'm very likely going to damage the car. And that's exactly what we do in marriage. In marriage, we look at it and we get our owner's instructions, our operating instructions from the wrong owner's manual. For many of us, we may look at our parents and what our parents did. And if you happen to have parents that had a great marriage, you might have learned a thing or two, but most of us don't come from that. Most of us had parents that were trying to figure it out themselves as well. And so what we've done is we've gotten our relationship techniques from our parents. We've gotten it from movies and television. And if Hollywood knew what they were doing, we wouldn't see all these well-publicized blow-ups of relationships in Hollywood. And so we're going off of the wrong owner's manual, and we are looking at our marriage as if our spouse is the problem. And the reality is that the problem rests with both of us, that we're operating with an owner's manual that isn't going to work. It's not going to get the results you want, and that's why you're struggling. When we do marriage the way it was designed and designed to function and operate, it works. In fact, you'll find that marriage is surprisingly simple when we do it God's way, because God is the creator of marriage. And his owner's manual, the Bible, is the only reliable source that we can use to operate within marriage and have it function the way that we need it to function. And short of that, then we're always looking for a reason why things are working the way they're working. And we're generally going to come to the wrong conclusion that we're operating under the wrong owner's manual. And so if we will consult this owner's manual, then we're going to be able to bring order and structure, and most importantly, satisfaction and peace to our relationship. And that's what the mediation process, the transformation that occurs in this process. And so God is the creator of marriage. And make no mistake about it, if the government thinks that they have control over marriage, that's why a person has to sue for divorce. But the reality is that God is the creator, and if we'll do it his way, we'll do it the way he designed it to function and operate, then we have a high expectation of success in marriage. Now, he structured marriage around 4 foundational laws. And these are laws. They work every time. Now, they're not, we don't call them laws because it's designed to be punitive. You get out of alignment, you're going to get, punished. But if you do get out of alignment, there are going to be unhealthy consequences in your relationship. But it actually works much more like natural law. As we look at natural law, for example, say the law of gravity. If I can guarantee the last time that you guys went outside, you did not once think about whether gravity was going to work, right? Because it works every time. It works so well, you don't have to think about it. But if you went to the top of a 5-story building and you fell off, you're going to become very aware of gravity because now you're out of alignment with its principles and there will be consequences. And marriage works exactly the same way. When we align with the foundational laws that God put in place, then we have a high degree of expectation that the marriage is going to work because we're in alignment with those laws. And if we get out of alignment with those laws, then we are going to be dealing with difficulty in our relationship. Now, the good news is there's just four foundational laws. There's not 50 things that we've got to figure out. There's 4, but they are all important. Now, the first one is the law of priority. And that says that next to your relationship with God, God first, of course, but on a human level, the most important relationship in your life has to be your marriage. That means it comes before kids, it comes before careers, it comes before hobbies. Marriage only works in first place. And anything that takes precedence over the relationship is going to cause a legitimate jealousy to where your spouse will act up and act out trying to reclaim that rightful place. So we have to keep the relationship a priority. Now, it's not necessarily a function of time. I always think of the factory worker that has a 10-hour shift and an hour commute to work. They're going to be gone half a day. So it's not a function of time, but it's an attitude that says you're the most important person in my life and I will make sacrifices for you. I will keep you a priority. I won't let things come before our relationship. We have to keep it a priority. Number 2 is pursuit. Now, pursuit says that we are to pursue our spouse in meaningful ways every day with joy and energy. And we're really good at that when we first meet. When we first start dating, man, we're looking for all kinds of ways, little ways and big ways to express on the outside what we're feeling on the inside. And that continues to escalate up to and including our wedding day, and then routine sets in. Jobs come along, kids come along, and we start to lose our focus, and we eventually stop pursuing the way that we once did. We stop doing those little things that actually caused us to fall in love in the first place. And then one day we wake up and we feel like, I don't even know if I know this person anymore. I don't even know my spouse. It isn't because you've fallen out of love. We literally walk out of love day by day by stopping our pursuit. Now, the good news is that if we return to pursuing our spouse again, those feelings very quickly return as well. And so we want to keep the relationship a priority, and we want to pursue our spouse in meaningful ways. Number 3 is partnership. Partnership says that we're to co-own and co-manage all the resources of the relationship. In other words, we make decisions together in unity. Imagine if every decision you made as a couple was made in unity, what would you have to fight about? That's right, nothing. We're fighting because we're acting independent of our spouse. But you say, Randy, you don't understand. We fight about everything. We fight about the little things. We have a lot of couples that tell us we don't fight about big things. We fight about all these little things. But it's because we're acting independent of our spouse. And if we'll come into alignment, we're going to see that the relationship will function much better. Now, we get out of alignment with partnership in one of 2 ways. Either through dominance, where we use force of will or force of personality to steer decisions where we think they should go, or we feel overpowered and overwhelmed and we withdraw. But you can see how either one of those is acting independent of your spouse, and the reality is it's not going to work. We have to act in partnership and we have to make decisions together. And that's a big part of what we teach in mediation is how to come back into agreement and make decisions in true partnership. And then finally is purity. And purity, of course, does mean to be sexually pure. We have to protect the relationship, but it goes way beyond the physical intimacy. And if we go back to the Garden of Eden, it says that Adam and Eve were both naked and unashamed. So they're completely exposed, completely transparent, physically, emotionally, spiritually. Now, the very first thing the Bible says about them after sin entered into their relationship is that they withdrew from each other. They hid themselves in the bushes. And they covered up the physical differences of their body, how the male and female body are different. And in so doing, they covered up the most sensitive areas of their body. And we do exactly the same thing emotionally. When conflict comes into the relationship, we have a tendency to pull back and cover up. We cover up our differences because we don't want to fight. And we cover up our most sensitive areas because we don't want hurt. When we do, we get out of line with purity. And the way we come back into purity is that we have to be willing to forgive when we've been wronged, and we have to be willing to repent when we've been wrong. But when we come back into alignment with purity, we will see tremendous growth take place in our relationship. So those are the 4 foundational laws. They're simple, but they're vital. They're important. And so just ask yourself right now, of those 4, priority, pursuit, partnership, and purity, which one do you think you personally are most out of alignment with? Not your spouse, not necessarily the marriage in general, but you personally. Own your own behavior and recognize that it isn't about your spouse right now, it's about you. And which of those 4 do you think you personally are most out of alignment with? And of course, some of you are selecting partnership. Some of you are selecting priority and pursuit and purity. A lot of couples tell us, hey, I'm out of alignment with all 4. I'm missing the boat here. And so what we want to do is to be able to bring you back into alignment. Now, when we looked at the marriage help arena, and traditionally most couples would go to get help from a counselor. We're not anti-counselor. We work with counselors. We refer people to counselors all the time. But there are some inherent challenges with counselors. One is not all counselors like doing couples therapy. They'll do it because it pays the bills, but their heart and passion is working one-on-one with a client. And the other challenge is not all counselors are created equal. Many of the couples that have come to us have said that they felt like the first counselor they went to was for the wife, and that didn't. And the second counselor was for the husband, and that didn't work. And after that, a lot of times couples just stop going. And so that didn't work. But there's another challenge with counseling that has been an even bigger issue for people, and that is the function of time. See, if you've done any kind of counseling, you know that a typical counseling session is going to be, 45 to 50 minutes long. And it usually takes 30 to 40 minutes just to identify an issue, to really dig deep and get to the bottom of it. And now there's no time left to actually work through it. And so your counselor will assign some homework that you're supposed to do prior to you coming back. And your next session might be in a week or 2 weeks or a month, depending on your frequency. And by that time, other issues have come up. And so what happens is the healing process, it stretches way out. It does work if you'll stick with it, but the healing process stretches way out. And if you're in pain, you don't want that healing process to stretch out. You want the pain to go away right now. And so when we looked at that, we thought that doesn't really work. And so we found a solution in a very unlikely place. That was in divorce mediation. Now, a divorce mediator's job is to peacefully separate couples. Now, that doesn't work for us, but because we advocate for marriage, but But the reality is that they're about 85% successful at peacefully separating couples. And that's an extraordinary number when you consider they're dealing with people that are probably at their absolute worst, emotionally, financially, just relationally, and yet they're able to peacefully separate them 85% of the time. That's an extraordinary number. And so what we've done is we've taken the mediation principles and we've applied them to marriage and created a process that allows us to peacefully bring couples back together. And for Debbie and I and the couples that we've worked with, our experience has been that we're about 95% successful at peacefully reconnecting couples using these principles. And so it works and it functions, and it's a much better way to do this. So let me spend just a minute talking about how this would work as far as our marriage transformation cruise goes. So as I said at the start of this call, the cruise is actually for couples who have gone through mediation with us. And so the day before, we're going to hold a one-day mediation where we're going to walk you through the principles and precepts of what we just talked about. And so let me spend just a minute talking about what that looks like. So we're going to start out the morning at 8 o'clock, and we're going to be talking about something we call marital balance. And it's within that is what we call the most important issue in marriage. Now, if you get this right, you're going to get a lot of things right. If you get this wrong, you're going to get a lot of things wrong. And so we want to come into alignment with that most important issue in marriage right from the start. Then we're going to do a deeper dive into the 4 laws of love and explore the areas where perhaps your relationship is out of alignment so that we can bring that back into alignment as we move further through the process. And then we're going to wrap up the morning looking at what we call marital strengths. Now, each of us have been given certain strengths by God, things that we just naturally do better than others. The problem in marriage is that we're different. Your spouse isn't going to have the same strengths as you. They're going to be different. In fact, only 1 in 33 million people have the same strengths as you in the same order. So what are the odds that the 2 of you are ever going to show up in a conversation exactly the same? It's probably 1 in 33. And so it isn't about sameness. A successful marriage isn't about both couples being the same, because that's not reality. It's just not going to happen. A great marriage is about oneness, where 2 people who are different can come together, bring their strengths, and work together to fit those strengths together. And when you do that, you actually make better decisions together than you'd ever make on your own because of your differences. You turn your strengths into an asset for the relationship, but you need to know how to do that. You need to know how to resolve conflict. And so that's why when you come back from lunch, we're going to move into conflict resolution. We're going to cover a process called think or sync. Now, sync is how we fight naturally. It's a process that it's interesting. Debbie and I have worked with hundreds of couples, and that every single one of those couples, without exception, every couple has said sync is exactly how they fight. And it's an extraordinary number when you consider that we've worked with couples in 22 different countries. Every different socioeconomic class, complete diversity of cultures and backgrounds and personalities, and yet we're all fighting the same way. See, that's proof positive that the devil's right in the middle of that process, and we're doing marriage his way. And that's why we're getting the results that we're getting. And that allows us then to flip the script and begin to look at doing marriage in a process that we call think. We're going to walk you through this step by step. There's 5 steps to this process, and you're going to see just how simple it is to work through and resolve your differences, even your tough ones, and come to a true win-win negotiated solution. And so then we're in real time. We're gonna pick your biggest issue, and we're going to start to work through that. And by the time you're finished, you will have a written plan of how to work through that issue. and that will conclude our day. So that's an overview of the day. And so Debbie, I want to shift back over to you. I've been talking enough here, and I want to shift back over to you and see if there's anything you want to add, anything I left out.
I just want to be able to share one of our biggest testimonies is a couple that was married for 47 years, living in 2 different cities, 2 different homes, and ready to file for divorce. And they came to our mediation, and they were able to solve 5 of their biggest issues they actually did a 2-day, but they were able to solve 5 of their biggest issues that they had never solved for 47 years in 16 hours. So can you imagine the amount of hours that they fought over those 5 items? So it is very common in every single mediations that we actually do is that people get their biggest issues solved. So anyway, I just think that's a great testimony.
Okay. Well, thank you, Debbie. So what I'm going to do is if I'm going to put in the chat, so bear with me just a second here while I do a little housekeeping. And I am going to place a link in the chat that will take you to a place where you can sign up and participate in this one-day mediation. I'm also going to share my screen and put up on the screen a QR code that will take you directly to the sign up page. So you're going to go there, you're going to sign up. The fee for this one day is $1,600, and this will allow you to reserve your spot. Once you do, we'll reach out to you and get you all the additional information. There's some homework that we're going to ask you to do in advance, and once you do that, you're going to be set to go. So all right, let me come back here.
Randy,
So
I do want to comment on something else.
Yeah.
One of the things that we accomplish in doing a sync or a think, which is the whole solution to conflict and conflict resolution. And so with that, we can actually have couples completely figure out their issues without compromising. So we don't need one couple, we don't actually need the husband to give up 5% or the wife to give up 5% for them to actually figure out their solution. So we actually have them seek God for the actual solutions. And so anyway, it is an amazing program, an amazing template. And what I can actually say is 100% of our couples have found a win-win and not a compromise. And every one of our couples has come to us saying that compromise is very normal and that they think marriage is hard. So we think that marriage is intentionally simple, and we think that marriage is all about intentional win-wins from God and not compromising. God doesn't need us to give up 5% or any percent. He has a solution for all of us about our biggest issues. So
excellent. So I'm also putting in the chat a link to the webpage that allows you to get more information on the cruise itself. And so I'm going to spend just a couple minutes talking about the cruise. So now you've done the one-day mediation, and now you're able to go on the cruise with us the next day out of Miami. And Debbie, I know as I'm sharing my screen, you're a fan of cruising.
well, to me, I think cruising is amazing, but I think what's going to be special about this cruise is that the couples that are already signed up and the couples that are coming are amazing people themselves. So you're going to be able to be with like-minded people who really want to work on their marriage, who I mean, a lot of them have strong marriages already. Some of them, are really working on their marriage. And so what I just want to say is this is going to be a group of like-minded people in beautiful area with amazing food and great tools. You're going to get all the tools in that one-day mediation that you will ever need for marriage. If you never go to another conference, which is not what we want you to do, if you never read another book again, the mediation of a one-day mediation is all the tools that you will ever need. And it is the best gift that you can give to your grandchildren, is to be able to share these tools with them, whenever the time is right.
Very good. All right, so just real quickly, I am going to share. This is the website that has the information on the cruise. And of course, the first part of it just tells you where we're going to go. We're going to be visiting St. Martin, which if you've never been there, it's a great island to go to. St. Thomas, and then Nassau, Bahamas. And so we have three great destinations, and we're going to be on a great ship. We're on Symphony of the Seas. It is one of the largest cruise ships in the world. It's one of the newer ships with Royal Caribbean, and it's a fantastic ship. We were on its sister ship, Harmony of the Seas, last April, and it was just a phenomenal trip. So it's a great boat, and we're gonna have a great time. On this website, it does have a lot of detailed information about what I just covered on mediation, but then it has some information on the cabins that are available. Now, the pricing that you're going to see here is the price per couple, not each, but that's per couple, and the total includes the price of the mediation. Now, you could do the mediation with us and not go on the cruise. We hope you won't do that, but you could do that. So if you wanted to just come to Miami, spend the day with us, we can get you these marriage tools, and then obviously it's going to be a significantly less expensive trip for you. But this cruise is going to be so much fun because during our sea days, and we have 3 at-sea days where we'll be cruising all day, and for 2 hours in the morning from 9 to 11, we're going to be sharing some additional marriage principles with other couples, and these will all be couples that have gone through marriage mediation with us. And so it's a fun trip. We did one in April of last year, and the couples all just really bonded. I mean, there's been lifelong friendships that have been forged from this. But you can see that there are 3 types of cabins available. There's an ocean view, so you'll be able to see the water, but you don't have access to the water from your cabin. There is a central park balcony, which is it's a great experience if you've not been on one of the larger Royal Caribbean ships. They have a central area that is called Central Park, and it literally is a bunch of trees and flowers and plants, and it's just beautiful. It's well maintained, so it's a great experience. And then of course there's the ocean view balcony, which allows you to step out onto your own balcony and be able to take in all the sights and sounds that the Caribbean has to offer. And that's actually one of my favorite things to do. I'm around people a lot, and so when I go on a cruise, on cruising days in particular, I love to just go sit out on my balcony. It's quiet. I get to watch the water go by, and I can read, I can write, I can do all kinds of things. And so those are the 3 types of cabins that are available. And then we're going to do bonus training during those 3 cruising days from 9 to 11. And we're going to be talking about how to be a constructive husband, how to be a constructive wife, how to understand and meet your wife's needs, how to meet your husband's needs. And we're going to be talking about 5 steps to conflict resolution and do a refresher on the think or sink. And so if that's something that you want to do, you'll see there that the travel agent information is there. You just reach out to Jeannie, and she will take great care of you and get you all signed up on the cruise portion. So with that, Debbie, I'm going to come back to you and see if there's anything that I should have added.
Not that I can think of. So yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, we hope that you guys will join us. Once again, I'm just going to pop up that QR code to sign up for mediation. If you have not grabbed that yet, just grab your phone, take a picture. Well, you can take a picture of it, but your camera will take you right there. You know how that works.
Randy,
Yeah.
I actually do have one thing.
Yeah.
Once you guys actually sign up, we're going to do a couple cruise calls between now and November. So we've actually done our first one already with actually just the many that have already signed up already. And so we're going to have probably 2 or 3 more prior to November. So if this is your first time cruising, we've got lots of lists for you guys, lots of ideas and things like that. And if you've already cruised a bunch, then you're going to be able to share your tips with the other people, because we do have so far a couple people that have never cruised before that are actually already coming. So we're going to do some information calls so that we can answer all of your questions. And really, it's not so much just about answering all the questions, but it's about bonding. It's about connecting already, so that when we get on the ship for 7 days and we do our dinners together, And, you know, Randy was talking about, you know, just the fellowship and things like that. And the dinners are extremely special. And doing some excursions together is really fun. Last time we did it, Randy got to do a rededication for someone's water baptism in the ocean. And almost our entire group came. And that was just really special. The couple had, you know, done some time with us already. And then they just wanted to rededicate their marriage. And so that was really special. So you just never know what's going to happen on a cruise. So.
Yeah. All right, well, very good. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, you can reach out to us. We are going to be posting this now on our Facebook pages, so you can look that up and reach out to us, and we'll get all your questions answered. We do hope that you'll plan to join us on this for what is going to be, we know, is going to be a memorable, life-changing experience for you. And your marriage will thank you. So with that, God bless, and we look forward to connecting with you in between now and the cruise, and we look forward to seeing you on the cruise. God bless.